All right, look, you're driving in your car, okay? And you're waiting to make a left at a traffic signal. The light turns yellow, should be your turn to go, but the traffic coming at you just keeps coming. And even when the light turns red, a guy in a BMW runs the red light so you can't make your left turn. What goes through your mind? Right! But you're not thinking, oh, he's a homosexual. You're thinking, oh, he's an inconsiderate douchebag like a Harley rider.
This is making insanely good sense to me.
I had you people try to get a little track lead, not to jump around like a bunch of Kansas City
We all know that England is a fallen nation, and not simply because they're being overrun by illegal immigrants, but also because they do not have free speech. If you say something that goes against the status quo, you will be thrown in jail. And as a matter of fact, that seems to be the only thing police actually care about over there. So what we're going to see today, of course, is Andrew Wilson pointing out the simple fact that naughty words shouldn't land you in jail, and he's going to destroy the entire panel doing so. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
I don't want to.
Say, I love gay people.
I'm allowed to. I just choose not to.
Well, we'll talk about the F word again shortly with my panel who are standing by, but Tucker Carlson's claim that I could be arrested for saying it was based on a real story he'd read in the Daily Mail. A nursing home worker had been arrested and convicted, he said, for using that word in text messages about a man she claimed had assaulted her. As I said in the interview, it sounded utterly ridiculous. Ladies, in a string of examples of an assault on free speech in the UK. Lewis Oakley, I mean, to start with, as a gay man, did you get offended?
Bisexual.
Oh, my apologies. As a bisexual man, are you offended by the F word?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely got connotations there that are offensive. I mean, it's used to demean people and say that, you know, gay people are, you know, subhuman, disgusting, less manly. And that's what's inferred by it. So when it's used as abuse for young kids, you know, like young 15-year-olds that are being called this in the playground, yes, it holds meaning. It, you know, leads to mental health issues. It leads to people feeling that there is something wrong with them.
But if it's not being used as a homophobic slur, in other words, it's not being targeted at a gay person, and, you know, her explanation was that where she lives in the north of England, well, no, Mark, I'll come to you. You might laugh, but I know there are parts of England where they would definitely not consider this to be a homophobic slur. They would just do it as a bit of, as they would see it, quite harmless banter. Now, we can argue about that, but it's different to say the N-word over here, which everyone would have a clear idea about. I don't think that this F word is seen in quite the same context, hence why she used it here, but not in a way that could be remotely construed as homophobic, which then begs the question, why has she been prosecuted for a hate crime prompting hate at gay people?
Can I just say, I think that it's almost worse that he was straight, you know, because what she's doing, she's really angry in the moment. I totally get it. And she's thinking, how can I insult this man that has done this terrible thing to me? And by the way, like, you know, I hope he gets convicted too. How can I demean him? I know, I'll call him gay, because gay is so lower, gay is so, like, you know, anti-masculine. Exactly. And that's the whole point. That was the word there's 1,000 other words she could have used to describe it.
But she says she's not homophobic and wasn't saying it as a gay slur.
Okay, but so what's that? You want to say that people that use the N-word to describe people aren't racist? It's just their banter between their friends?
Well, no, because I think there is a qualitative difference in severity of these words. I mean,
so race is more important than sexuality.
Well, it's an interesting, arguable point. But regardless, the idea that she could use that word in a text message, and the next thing, 11 police are banging on, not even banging in, they're coming in, and she's having a bath, naked. Absolutely extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, it's actually, I'm not even surprised. So the idea here is, I guess you could get SA'd, and if you call your assailant the, quote, F slur, you go to jail, right? Some country you got there. By the way, let's point this out, that progressives have for years, as these guys say, you know, hey, we don't want to, you know, put in hate speech laws and have people arrested and this and that. They've been doing the same type of stuff for years. They do depersoning, debanking, deplatforming, keeping people away from their cash. If you touch on any issues that they don't like, they've been doing that for years to conservatives. So they're doing the exact same thing that the government over there is doing. They're just using the private marketplace to do it. So what they do is they will go on these massive campaigns to deperson a human being from society because they have wrongthink, or they say a word that makes somebody else upsetty spaghetti, right? That's what they do. And the fact of the matter is like, who gives a shit? Who cares if this woman didn't care? Who cares if she was like, you know what, I am homophobic, and I said it because I'm homophobic. That's her business, right? You can say what you want. You're supposed to, at least in free nations, and that's not what you have there. And that was Tucker Carlson's point. You don't have a free nation there. You have a nation which is under a dictator.
Hang on. Out of interest, Andrew, would you use that word?
Sure, you use it all the time. It's one of the best ways to describe friends. Right?
Would you use it? Would you use it on a show like this?
It's not meant to be. Look, it's not meant to be. Can I say it?
Would you say it? I mean, would you normally use a word?
Well,
like
I wouldn't say it for the purposes of TOS, but I mean, if I was allowed to, sure, it's one of my favorite words to say. There's nothing wrong with the word. What happens is this. This word is not even being used as a homophobic slur, and it hasn't since I was a kid, okay? That's the truth. People call each other this all the time for literally for fun, just because it's fun. You'll go, you like run into a buddy of yours. What's up, F slur? Right? You don't care, and you give each other.
I don't think that's true.
Right?
Though.
It is true. Look,
no,
listen,
I think if you ask gay people, they will tell you it is often used in a derogatory way and offensive way intended to demean them, and it's done all the time. I don't think we can dispute that.
But you know what? Everything, you can use any word as derogatory if you want to, or you can use words and they're not derogatory. It depends on the context, and we're social creatures. I'm tired of people acting like socially everybody's retarded. We know that there's context for words, and when you say in proper context this word to buddies and people in this, whatever, it's not a problem socially, and it never has been. And Mark might shake his head, but I bet you in high school he was calling half of his friends that word, and they were probably calling it to him back. Why? Because it's funny.
The bigger issue, it seems to me, here with the UK is that the Times newspaper recently revealed that police officers are making 12,000 arrests a year under Section 127 of the Communications Act and Section 1 of the Malicious Communications Act. In other words, similar instances to this. That's 30 arrests a day over offensive posts on social media and other platforms. Thousands of people being detained and questioned for sending messages that, quote, cause annoyance, inconvenience, or anxiety to others via the internet, telephone, or mail. But in a country that's supposed to be one of the leaders of free speech historically in the world, this is pretty terrifying, isn't it? It's just Kafka stuff.
Well, two things. We have protected characteristics, right? We understand that in UK law, it was only 1967 in this country, it stopped being illegal to be gay. It was only in 2003 that we got rid of things like Section 28. The law has had a real hand in causing stigma and discrimination against gay people that did not disappear in 20-something years. Point. So it's right that the law steps in and says, you know what, we've had a hand in this. We're going to step in and protect you because it takes a preventative measure, much like the NHS, where it says, you know what, rather than treat you when you're sick, let's just prevent people from getting sick where we can. And it's the same thing here. Yes, the line is calling for violence, but if you can stop people hating on people for their individual identity, you can say you're stupid, you're an idiot, you've done this wrong, whatever. But if it's targeted, if it's hate on you because of your race,
is it okay
because of your sexuality, because of your religion.
Why does nobody get arrested for calling Donald Trump a Nazi?
Well, no, but you know what? The Nazi thing is interesting because I do think...
It's not just interesting, it's probably the most egregious thing you could possibly call somebody, is comparing him directly to Adolf Hitler, who murdered 12 million people, who gassed 6 million Jews in concentration camps, right? The idea that
the Americans should bring in some speech.
But the idea that that is not an arrestable offence by comparison to using the F word against a gay person seems to me to be completely disproportionate.
Well, you're absolutely right, but here's my thing. I think that the Nazi thing is an interesting thing because actually this proves that it's not a left or a right-wing issue because actually since the assassination of Charlie Kirk and those two attempts on Donald Trump's life, the right has been saying, watch your rhetoric. And they understand that whilst people aren't calling for violence against them, speaking about them as Nazis is increasing the likeliness of someone thinking, oh my God, there's Nazis, I better get a gun and do something about it. So they understand.
They're not calling for their
not calling
arrest,
for
dude.
violence, but calling them words
on.
starts that dehumanization that leads to violence. So thank you for proving my
This
point.
is like
but these
this
are
sick.
opposite
This
sides.
is actually sick. What you're saying, dude. What you're saying is that you're calling for people to be arrested for words that make you upset. That's sick. This is the country of John Locke. Hang on. This is the country of John Locke. This is the country that was supposed to, we adopted our constitution based on these principles of free speech. And, you sick bastards are running around actually calling for the arrest of people because they say mean words.
So, of course, this entire situation should be bone-chilling to the people of England. Now, of course, they don't have a First Amendment like we do here in America, and that is why you see all of their free speech rights being taken away. For the longest time, England actually thought they had free speech, but it turns out they don't, because, yes, you have 12,000 arrests this year alone on people who are making mean tweets, making things that aren't agreeable to the establishment, all right? And then the police go and investigate, even though you have rampant grooming gangs and murders and things like that happening over in the UK that the police could actually be trying to stop and investigate instead, okay? But Andrew Wilson actually makes a really great point. All right. This is exactly what the Democrats have been doing. It's just not government sanctioned, which, of course, is why you have to have the free speech and why you should never enact hate speech laws and things of that sort. All right. Because Andrew Wilson mentions, yeah, the Democrats want to get you fired. They want to get you deplatformed. They want to debank you. They want to take away all of your money, your livelihood, a way to support your family, all because they disagree with your words or your political opinions. But apparently Lewis is actually okay with that because these words actually cause harm, or rather the road to cause harm, which doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. Now, he did have a very interesting argument in terms of Charlie Kirk's murder, because yes, the right has been saying, watch your language. And the reason why we've been saying watch your language to the left and people who actually have the intent to do harm to people on the right is simply because the left has been conjoining words with action. All right, remember, by any means necessary. Punch a Nazi in the face. Hate has no home here, right? End fascism. And of course, what's the only way to end all of these things? Through physical action, all right? And that is what the left has been calling for. Remember, words are now violence as opposed to sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me, okay? So here's something obviously that Lewis hasn't thought about, okay? If you could never say that naughty F word at any time because there's either a stigma or an intent or some type of harm caused whenever you say it, then clearly he thinks you should never be able to say that word. But let's go ahead and flip this around. What about all of the black kids who use the N-word? When I say N, I'm not referring to Nazi, who use the N-word constantly, all right? I am a teacher in the hallways every single day. I hear that word multiple times, okay? So over in England, where that word is also popular because of the infiltration of hip-hop music, all right? Every single time even a black kid says that word, should they be arrested, all right? Because we all know the differences in terms of saying a word, the intent behind the word, etc. And we also know that government should never be allowed to be the ones policing that speech because they can't tell the difference because they don't know what's going on in someone's mind. And Piers Morgan actually raises the really good point. Should you go around and be able to call people Nazis and fascists? Because guess what that does? That would cause stigma, right? That would spread hate. That might lead to calls to action, etc. Okay? So what we have to get back to is just this fundamental understanding that yes, all of these words have meanings. And no, when we use those words, we might not be referring to the original intent or meaning of the word. But none of that really matters because as soon as you start policing free speech, you have lost it. And you can arrest anyone for anything, anywhere, anytime, any place. And that is why England, of course, is a fallen state. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.